if you swear, we swear. It's nothing crazy. So,
Yeah, all good.
Mostly swear at Dan.
Okay.
the biggest. I'm a punching bag, and I'm fine with it.
Someone's got to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Podcast about bourbon and the ones who drink it. This is Bourbon Matters. Welcome to Bourbon Matters. I'm Jake.
I'm Dan.
And we are joined by Keith and Bob of Pourfolio. Thanks, guys, for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having
Glad
us.
to be here.
So, a lot of people are probably wondering, what is Pourfolio? So do you want to go ahead and explain what you guys are working on?
Yeah, glad to, for sure. So, like we talked a little bit in the pre-show chat, it's kind of a new startup app that's materialized that we've been working on for the last 6 or so months based on our journey and our experiences, tastings at Gold Eagle and other places, and in some of our local whiskey clubs and things like that. And so part of where we've evolved to is, we started with like lots of pen and paper, taking notes and things like that of, here was American Prairie bourbon that I sampled in March of 23, and here's what it was at that time, and evolving. And the more we looked at the apps and the spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff, we found like for us, there wasn't anything that really covered it all. And so some of the vision for Pourfolio and what we've been building towards is to kind of become that center that brings and unites kind of the whole part of the experience, from the tasting room to your home bar to your social clubs, your experiences, all the way to the retailer and ultimately the producers for what that experience looks like. So yeah, an early app we've been building and having some fun exploring and testing and using in different groups, and looking forward to sharing a little more about it.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I know, like, I've been recommended, various different whiskey, collection apps, over the years, and a lot of them focus on just like cataloging your bottles and not much more. And we've been looking at your app for a couple days, and like it's much more feature rich, I'd say, than a lot of the other whiskey apps out there. So do you want to go through like some of the like key features, and like why do you think it was worth including, some of them?
Yeah, definitely. And appreciate you sharing that, because a lot of what we've kind of come to is bringing all those features together and things that maybe are table stakes elsewhere. So table stakes for sure, as you described, right? Building up your collection or importing maybe from a spreadsheet or another tool. That's often the most challenging part, right? Is taking the collection behind you, Jake, and getting it on paper. And sometimes it's not even worth the squeeze. But for us, we've built on there is a lot of that tasting intelligence or the experience part, how you're experiencing your collection when you're tasting at a bar and sample. So there are things like we have tasting sessions and open events where, for instance, Gold Eagle hosted an event earlier this week with Rye 3, and in Pourfolio set up a tasting session for it. And then everyone who attended can go through those bottles. And just like many of us used to do on paper in the moment, here's what I'm tasting. I liked this one better than this one. Here's what I smelled. And so in Pourfolio, there's basically a flavor wheel. So as you're experiencing or trying something, whether it's whiskey or another spirit, yep, it reminds me of this is fruity, and what kind of fruity? Maybe cherry, maybe it's leading me into a certain flavor experience. So that is a lot of the kind of the core of beyond the collection of being able to do those things. From there, we've got things for like club management. So Bob and I are part of a couple local whiskey clubs. Some are larger, others are much smaller and intimate. And in those, same thing, we can manage some simple club rosters and attendance and sessions and calendars and events. But also as a club, we're building an identity of things that we taste, and we do them blind, and what we try, what we don't like, things like that. And so not only is it just my personal palate profile or twin, But now the clubs and the social groups I'm a part of also start to build up this identity of this club is known for these types of preferences and things like that. Beyond there, the friends, some of the simple stuff that maybe we come to expect elsewhere but take for granted doesn't really exist anywhere in the whiskey world. But the social connection, a news feed as an example. So I saw today, Jake, you added a couple bottles to your collection. I was like, oh, that's sweet. That's pretty cool. So just like you would on any other social media site, and you can see what your friends and other connections are experiencing, drinking, tasting, what they added to their collection, things like that. There was actually a day
And what they want.
I had picked up a bottle. Yeah, right on. And what you're looking for. So if I...
Yeah.
Yep. Dan unfortunately added me as a friend.
Did you accept? Because earlier today I checked and you hadn't accepted yet.
Yeah, I did.
Got to put some expensive things on your wish list and see if Dan comes through for you.
Yeah.
So the wish list side of things, are you like, is that going to be more or less like you can have your wish list out there and then you can find people that might have bottles or extra bottles available because they hoarded or things like that? Or what's the thought with the wish list?
Yeah, wish list originally was one thing that we kind of had just made as almost like a secondary feature, but as you described, Dan, we're seeing it becoming a little bit more popular. So the impetus for it originally was, as a friend group or in social groups, we're always trying to buy birthday presents or gifts or things. And so you can use the wish list to pull what you're looking for, but also flavors. And now we are seeing there's been some feedback and interest as well of expanding it into a little bit more of the trading marketplace, or like, I know Jake is looking for these 4 or 5 things, and maybe he has these other things available. We certainly don't want to own or take over the marketplace. There are much bigger and better apps that own all of that piece of it. But at least within your social circles, to know what types of things Bob likes, what he's drinking, what he's enjoying, what he's tasting, and maybe some very specific things. And even today, one of our buddies was able to cross off the new Star Hill Farms 2026 release off his wish list. We cracked it this morning, put some tasting notes in, and had a great time with it. So it was cool to see that come full circle today for our Big Dan in our group.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan's usually have pretty good taste because I have a Star Hill Farms bottle that I really love too. So
that's right. A couple of things extending out of there that we feel like we found some nice niche areas for is like sample swaps. So something that's fairly standard in the community, and even within some of our smaller circle, every month at our club tastings, in addition to doing blind tastings, we bring pools of samples and then we blindly pick one, go home, blind rate it on our own time before we come back for the next month, and then we reveal those. And so we built things like sample swaps in the app where you can send them blind. I can send you a little 2-ounce glass pour. In the app, you guess, just like you would if you were at Gold Eagle or another blind tasting session. Say, I think this is bourbon. These are the notes I get. And then when you're done, you click reveal, and it'll show how your notes and experience compared to the person who hosted it, how the distillery notes were there. I think a month ago I sent Bob a pour, and ours, I think he scored 0. Like we were 100% apart on. Absolute hardcore 0.
And
so
it was a whiskey that
pretty cool.
It was a whiskey that I typically like a lot, and I hated it in the sample. It was weird.
That's the most fun is the blinds to see how like you'll get like you're feeling good about how you're doing with picking things out, and then like you'll get a blind sample and you'll be like, God, I feel really good about this, and you're completely wrong, and you just like realize that you just don't know anything anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And that's where we really have taken a lot of inspiration, right, with Jake for the blind tastings and certain other circles, where as much as we can do to support that and to enable it, so you're not having to do those things. So in the app, blind tastings can set up. The sample swap has been a lot of fun. You write a little code or send someone a QR code, and like Jake, you could claim my sampler. When you're ready, you taste it, you guess it, you log your notes, and I was like, cool, yeah, you did or you didn't. Get close to it. And then there's a lot of other things that branch from. If you put in how you're experiencing different spirits, and we know how the distiller intends it to be tasted, and maybe some verified experts say it tastes like X, Y, or Z, we can do all sorts of fun combinations of how close or far you are. Or if you're going to look for a bottle, I want something that's the exact same as I experienced Buffalo Trace. We can do that. And you can do the opposite and say, Buffalo Trace usually tastes like vanilla, caramel, whatever to me. I want something the exact opposite side of the spectrum. When you're in the aisle at the store looking for something, you can swipe over and say, give me something that's the exact opposite of my palate from Buffalo Trace, and they'll have some recommendations too. Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
Are you guys doing stuff like that through AI, or is this planning to build out an algorithm based off of the feedback you're getting off of different whiskeys from people that use the app, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's a great question, and combinations of all of it. So for sure, lots of underlying degrees of AI powering different parts of it. In some cases, very, very simple and more deterministic, where if this, then why. Other places where as the data starts to grow and we know more about my palate, we know more about how Jake experiences whiskeys and what our groups do together, then we can start building a little bit more complex modeling. And so we've got some of those under the hood now and lots of tuning. One of the next big features that we'll probably launch by mid-July is what we call the Spirit Guide, and it's the conversational experience that would be powered by all of that. And so we've got it in beta testing with our top users right now, and I think both of you should have access to it as well. But find me a pour in my collection that I haven't drank in 90 days, or set up a tasting for me that's a lot of fruit, a lot of oak, and proofs 100 or less, like things like that, where and it's all based on your experiences, your tasting, not just what the distiller said, and your active collection. So that's where bringing some of those things together really unleashes some cool power.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is this something you guys are building out completely yourselves then? And if so, how did you guys get started on that? Is that something you guys have in your background? Is it something you have a team of some people that you know that are working on doing the coding and things? How does the whole setup and how did it all get started?
Yeah. Glad to share. There's 5 of us. It's just 5 of us. So Bob, myself, Jeff, Big Dan, and then Sonny are the 5 powering Pourfolio. And so everything that we built today is from the 5 of us. We've got a variety of different backgrounds, ranging from product management, technology, data science, a little bit of marketing, operations. And so, we've got a nice blend that's been able to build it for the last 6 to 9 months we've been working on it. Some of it too, learning as we go, being such early stage startup, and what again started as taking notes on paper and Excels and WhatsApp groups to kind of building out a functional app that, to your point earlier, Jake, is arguably the most feature rich out of any of them in the industry, since we cover such a wide ground. So it's been a cool, fun side hobby turned into like a real usable app in both the app stores, on the web, all that good stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how did you guys each get into whiskey in general?
Yeah, that's a good question.
For me, it was actually my wife. When we started dating, she worked at a restaurant.
You found a good one. I don't know anything about your wife. You done found a good one.
Like my version of whiskey was Jameson, Jack, just the basics, which I liked it. But I was more of a tequila drinker at the time. And my wife worked at a restaurant, and she was like, "Hey, have you ever tried Lagavulin 16 year?" And I'm like, "No, what is it?" She's like, "It tastes like a campfire." I'm like, "That sounds lovely," and I loved it. That's still one of my favorite whiskeys. And then it was just a uphill journey of joy. And now I think out of our group, I probably have the most expanded palate. Like I pretty much like all whiskey types. Like I like scotches, I like Canadian whiskey, I like bourbons, I like Japanese whiskeys. I like it all. So
Nice. Yeah, I don't discriminate either. So
yeah, there are some brands that I just don't like, but that's different.
yeah.
And I think even in those moments, that's the fun power of doing a blind too, because what might taste like one thing or those biases go away, which has been kind of cool. For me, I actually can't pinpoint a single moment. I think back to when we used to live in Gurnee a little bit further up, and it was kind of like a shelf in the corner with Jameson, Jack, and like one bottle of Colonel Taylor, the small batch that my wife had gotten for a birthday. She had no idea. She's like, yeah, the guy went to the back and got me this, said it's really important. And so like, she'll joke, she's like, I got you your first bottle of allocated whiskey before you even knew about those things. And then we look back to like the last 5, 7, 8 years, and as a group and as part of different communities, it's taken off in a really fun way. So yeah.
What you guys were talking about the wives and things. I thought of like this is something that wouldn't affect me at all, but I think there's a feature that you guys need to do or add, just a small one called wife mode, because I just for fun started scanning my bottles in, and I think I put a dozen in, and it showed the cost of those 11 bottles. And I think a wife mode needs to be the auto default for that price of your collection. It needs to be a made up number, and then you can turn it off to see what the actual value of your collection was, because it went up. I had a new friend over not too long ago, and they asked like what the value of they thought my collection was, which isn't big. I probably have around 65 bottles right now. And I said a number, and I've scanned in 12 bottles so far, and none of them are the good ones. And it's just like, oh, I'm already halfway to what I thought my total was. I haven't gotten the expensive shit. So I think a white mode might be a good little tongue-in-cheek feature to throw in there, just because like
it's got to cut by like 75%.
Yeah, because if Jake scans his bottles in and generates just for fun, decides to get his phone and open up his app, he's not going to be around anymore. So that might be something that you could throw in, was the first thing I thought of.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. A quick little toggle there to pull that down, adjust it, maybe say these were all given as gifts, and yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Shoot, I had one that I just forgot. Jake, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, is there anything else that you guys are working on right now as far as features go?
Yeah, I actually just pushed out another release earlier today. We've been pushing out about 2 releases a month of major feature updates. So we've come a long way even since January, February, where, like, to your earlier point, it was largely like basic collection management, set up a tasting session, and there's 50 tasting notes. And so the good news about being early startup is we can move pretty quickly. So like even earlier today, we launched and we're starting to work on some quick clicks to, like, for instance, if you go to a tasting session, you loved a bottle, quick click, share your tasting notes, review, scores on social media. So a little image to do that, and it can click and come view your notes. The tasting journal we just launched today as well. So one place you can see all of your tasting notes, reviews, and same thing, you could share those if you'd like. And then same for friends. So in the app, there's 2 different kind of tiers of friends. You could have people in your inner circle who can see things like collection value, and things like casual friends who, it's kind of 1 degree removed, or maybe they don't see everything. And so things like tasting journal notes, where if you want to see what people are drinking and what they're enjoying, you can do those. And then, a lot of throughout the app, you'll see we've kind of got 2 different versions of how you can pick your flavors and tasting. And some people prefer to type them in. And like last night at the tasting at Gold Eagle, we had someone discover, if I type in my tasting notes like I naturally would, it automatically picks up, you said vanilla, oak, cherry, and adds those. You don't have to add them yourself. Other people like the option of the wheel, so you can kind of click. It's fruity, but I don't know what kind of fruity it is. So we've been adding rings to that circle to make it easier for people who maybe don't exactly know what kind of hazelnut they're tasting, but it tastes kind of nutty. And then, we're adding lots of bottles to the global database. We're averaging a few hundred per week, 1,000 plus a month. And it's not just whiskey. So we've been adding lots of tequila, vodka, and gin most recently to kind of help round out so that everyone can taste those. And with those, being able to have the tasting, right? Slightly different flavor notes you would typically find on a tequila. There's some overlap, but things like that, adding the kind of other spirits and expanding those. And then within some of our main features, so club management and events and tastings, just adding some depth to those. Every club and every social circle runs a little bit differently. And so the things that a 15-person club need compared to Lake County Whiskey Club, compared to ACBS, compared to the Dallas Bourbon Club that's got 15,000 members in it, right? The needs are very, very different. So as we're taking feedback from those groups, working on expanding some of those things, because club management and doing those things isn't done well pretty much anywhere. And so we think we can help solve that need.
Yeah, one of the things that I said, or that I couldn't think of earlier, that I really enjoy is like when you're talking about doing the sharing of samples and things, to be able to do blind sharing. I think one of the favorite times of year I have is Advent calendar season.
Yeah.
Because I'm a single guy, so it's hard for me to do a blind tasting. I mean, you do the thing where you put the label on the bottom of the Glencairn and you just keep shuffling them for 5 minutes and then you're good. But having more access to try more things blind, I think is phenomenal, because that's how we all learn, and it's really cool when you get put in your place. Or the one year we did one at Whiskey Acres, it was funny because one of the ones people loved early on that no one really knew exactly what was Tullamore Dew. And it was like, for a lot of people, we had never just had Tullamore Dew it forever. You're like, oh, a $25 bottle of whiskey is on here, and I'm actually enjoying drinking it. It's something that you just normally never grab when you go to a bar or go to a liquor store, and you get to find things. So I think the value of having something like that with a community is very big, just because it's a way to push out and expand and try things that you would probably normally just turn your nose up at.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had thought about that. It was just before we... Oh, go ahead, Bob.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say another feature that we would like to see is all these clubs that are around the nation to be able to get to know each other a little bit, to kind of see like what the club in Dallas is doing and how they're doing things differently than we are. Because the one thing that's really nice about the whiskey community is that we're all a community. There's no like rivalry in reality. I'm sure there's some somewhere, but we are just a community trying to just enjoy whiskey. And that way too, if we get all these different clubs and all the events kind of lined up in this one app, and you go visit North Carolina, and then an event pops up because you're in North Carolina now, and you wouldn't have seen that there's an event in like social media, because why would you follow this random liquor store? But it'd be nice to have a place where events that are like whiskey focused or tequila or tasting focused, things that you're interested in, would pop up through this app, no matter where the events are.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, I like that. Even if it's geolocated too or whatever, of you're in a different area, and hey, there's you can find events near me based off of like if there are stores at Gold Eagle that have these different master classes and things. You can just, hey, I'm in this site, I got an hour to kill, I'm going to go to this master class here and try something.
Because right now they rely on social media, but like someone from Dallas, why are they going to follow Gold Eagle?
Yeah.
Like, no offense to Gold Eagle, but they don't even know it exists.
Yep.
I think there should also be like a tater function, almost like a blacklist. So like if 5 people designate Dan as a tater, like to stay away from him, and like everyone who says the opposite is actually correct.
It's like a star system for how you view people's tasting notes.
Yeah.
Personal star system. It doesn't need to be public, just for yourself.
Yep.
But
Dan says everything is smooth and vanilla.
Smooth vanilla and oak.
Hint of caramel.
Hint of caramel. Yeah. It burns. This one burns.
It reminded me of some feedback we got earlier this year, even from a mid-tier retailer who had talked about, when we think about retailers who do raffles or lotteries or try to reward some of their top customers, that they could see value in things like this of, right? Oh, I know Dan is a loyal, he's here for all my tastings, and Dan loves these types of things, these different spirits, these flavors. I've got a new allocated X, Y, or Z that matches what Dan loves, and Dan's loyal. could I use this to help make sure these get to the people that I want to reward, or do some of the weighted lotteries or raffles or white elephants that some places do too. So there's some interesting things like that, even beyond some catering and the wife mode of like, oh, based on what your actual preferences and your patterns are, could be some helpful to retailers too.
Or even see that Dan's actually got 10 of those stashed in his closet, so like he probably doesn't need that 11th one, you know.
That's right.
I got called out for being a tater earlier this week because I was on we had a poll online, and it wasn't even a whiskey tater thing. And I want to defend myself a little bit at this point because I was overlanding through Canyonlands with a buddy. I had 2 cigars that have been here for way too long, and one was a Blanton cigar we got when we were down at Buffalo Trace. So we had to put a poll up to see if I was a tater or not for smoking a Blanton cigar, and I was. But I just want to say that Jake smoked his that night because he was so excited about it.
Yeah.
So I feel that's more tater than a guy that's had that for 3 or 4 years now at this point.
No, but now I have a bunch of other ones, so I've never bought another Blanton cigar.
Neither have I, and I haven't smoked it for 3 years until I took it on a trip. So
I am sad though about the Four Roses one and not being able to find another one of those, because that was a really good one.
yeah. So for Pourfolio, is this something you guys? I know you said you got a team of 5 total. Are you got some people working on it full time? Is this a side gig that you guys are doing? What's kind of the business structure of it?
Yeah, all side, doing some free time, right? Hobby turned into a little bit more than a hobby. So just kind of on the side, free time, and as we get some feedback and we make time, meet with guys like you and others of what else would be helpful, what else would be useful, and it's part of why it's nice being so early and this not being our full-time day job is we can pivot pretty quick. So maybe by Monday there will be wife mode. Who knows, right? Like we can go pretty quick to do some of those things. Yep. So, and then, and just kind of getting out in the community, getting feedback. That's where it's been nice to, even at some of the Gold Eagle tastings and a few other events, like how would you like, what else is missing in all the other apps and ecosystem, and where does it make sense for us to build some of those things versus just kind of let them exist where they're better off in other places and some of the bigger apps that do different things. And kind of how we've got to this point is it's served us in our groups well. It's served some of the clubs and social circles we've been in, and so above, if nothing else, we love using it within our groups for the things that we would have otherwise been doing on pen and paper or things like that. So
I'm excited to dive into it a bit more. I have a lot of work to do to get fully cataloged.
This is a small portion of Jake's collection. He has a bar downstairs and a closet that is just shoved in right now.
Yeah.
So
I got a lot of work ahead of me, but I'm excited to get to use it at master classes and things like that too, and get to see if anybody else in the crowd feels the way that I do about different pours and things like that. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we've had a variety of different people we've talked to, and not unlike you, Jake, right? There's many people who have never cataloged. It's a big step, and are like, I'm not interested. Others who have I've got this ugly spreadsheet, and I was one of those. And one of our other buddies the same way. It was like, I kept the spreadsheet because none of the apps met my need. And then others who have used some of the big apps that have those already, and all those, we've got a path for everybody of we've got a way to help you at least get started so you can get some of the fun. And as soon as you start getting some of the bottles loaded, the flavor profiles, enrichment notes, those things all come by default. So as soon as you've got a maker's mark in your collection, we've got some flavor notes for it. You can start logging tastings, which helps. So, yeah.
And I will say from my point of view, I actually
spreadsheet for a long time.
Yeah.
What was that, Bob?
I came into this. I had never used an app. My collection was very small. I'm new to the whiskey collection game. And actually developing this app has actually helped me appreciate whiskey more. Because then I really get to understand the tasting notes. So I skipped the spreadsheet, skipped the books, went straight into the app. And it's really helped me understand my own palate too. So
yeah.
I could imagine like this would be great if I was starting fresh, from like ground zero, just getting into whiskey, being able to catalog, what bottles I like, what brands I like, those different flavor profiles that I gravitate to, for sure, and like definitely help you avoid some of the missteps we make early on buying bottles that we end up hating and things like that. So I think this is valuable for those kind of people, for sure.
Yeah, well, even like just the speed of understanding your palate better. We joke around here. I normally don't like rye. There are rye whiskeys that I like. It's not one of my favorites. Certain flavor profiles of rye I really do enjoy. But it took me a long time to figure out my favorite bourbon is a high rye bourbon. And I like it. I mean, once I started looking at mash bills of some of my favorite bottles, I'm like, if it's over 25% rye in the mash bill of bourbon, it's usually towards the top of the bourbons that and it takes a long time especially when you're starting out and you don't realize or understand mash bills until you get to that point where you understand that this can help you. Hey, these are the styles that you're liking. These would be the things you should steer towards, and without you knowing it, it's going to help you find more things that are easy to love.
Yeah, exactly. And Jake, I'd be remiss. I think I just saw Four Roses pour on your end. Which that's I've got OBSF tonight.
This is an OESQ. I don't know where this one's from though. I think I took the tag off, so I'm not sure where it's from. But this one's really good. It's a really oaky one.
How are you going to properly log it if you don't know where it's from now?
I can't properly log it. That's the answer to that question.
just on the logging side. So probably like we've been doing this podcast now for 4 years. I think within our first year, Jake wanted us all to put a spreadsheet together of what we all had, so it'd be easier when we started being in different locations to figure out when we talked more about just one type of whiskey an episode. And I remember I did my part of the spreadsheet, and then Jake never did anything.
I don't think I put a single thing on.
Yeah, I know. I think you assigned it and wanted everyone to do it, and I was the one that fully did it. But that was years ago. And to be fair, at that point, we all said we need to start cutting back on our collection. One of us did. The other one didn't.
No, not at all. Some would even say the exact opposite.
Yeah,
transpired.
Got all the bottles he wasn't buying.
Yeah,
that's right.
Someone's got to make up for Dan's lack of economic contribution here. So,
So tell us a little bit about the subscription process or this model and things for Pourfolio. What do you get with the levels and things like that?
Yeah. There's 3 main tiers. Explorer tier is free, and that gets you up to 40 bottles, which covers most early or casual sippers, and access to pretty much all the functionality. So like you can attend and create tasting sessions. There's some light caps on those, and then reports and some analytics and some of the flavor wheels. So all those things are largely included for free, because we want to encourage people to inventory their collection, start taking some notes, get an idea of their palate. And then for the, we call it Curator, which was $6.99 a month, and there's a slight discount if you pay for annual. And then Trailblazer is our top tier, unlimited everything, which is $9.99 a month. And again, a slight discount if you pay for annual. And that's where we start adding some of the advanced flavor profiles, comparing, matching, finding out what you like, what you don't like against your friends, expert reviews, distillery notes. So beyond just what are you experiencing and what is the distiller, it helps you kind of understand much more of the magic in the net there. And then in those additional tiers too is where you can start hosting clubs. Like if you're a club owner or you're wanting to start a club, or if you're in multiple clubs, you would need one of the top 2 tiers to be an active member in 3, 5, 10 different clubs, or to use some of the advanced club functionality too, right? Setting up voting, and we've got locker and club inventories where if your club is maintaining, right, these are the bottles that are owned by the club. Things like that are in the mid and the upper tiers. And then things that like the early, we call it our Trailblazer tier, the top tier, which again, $10 a month. It's like a nice pour once a month at a bar. So we try to stay pretty reasonable, especially compared to other apps in the market too. But that's where we put all of our kind of bleeding edge functionality and features. So they're the first ones to get access to the spirit guide, the conversational ask any question about your collection, the advanced insights like club tasting insights. What's your club's palate profile? Help me pick pours. For tasting sessions, I don't think I mentioned this earlier. We have a guided flow where you can basically say like, pick my pour or pick my tasting or my flight for the day. And you could say, okay, it's Dan, Keith, Jake, and Bob tasting. Find me things that we all taste as vanilla, or find different combinations that appeal to this friends group or this social. I want them all above 115 proof and X, Y, and Z. So some of those guided of like, build my flight for me based on all the intelligence Pourfolio has about you, your friends, your collection. Those are reserved for the mid and the upper tier. And then those will be the tiers that'll get some of our fun events. Last month we did a blind tasting at Gold Eagle with just one of our local Whiskey Wednesday group. And in there we did a table versus table, guess, right? Proof, what type, what age. And so like that will be in Pourfolio in the next month, where you're able to set up something like that. If a head-to-head competition, you get points for kind of tables, things. So those are the features that go to those top tasting tiers.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, the pricing, try to keep it fairly reasonable. The price of a nice pour or even a regular pour at a bar a month.
I'd say $10
really
is a regular pour anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
That's Jameson.
So, and
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Got it.
but yeah.
Nice. No, I think, and especially for like the free level for the people with less than 40 bottles, like I really wish I would have looked into something like this when I first started, just because to have a catalog of every bottle I've gone through would be nice. Because at this point, I mean, 6-7 years into drinking a lot of whiskey, there's bottles I know I like that I've completely forgot that I've had.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice to go back and reminisce. I mean, the things we always talk about with whiskey is we talked about a lot, the community aspect of it and the socializing aspect of it. But going back in the story and the history, some of the stuff that you had is kind of frustrating that I don't have that anymore. And I wish that there would have been a way. So, especially if you're starting out a collection, it's for the free, for not having to pay a thing. If you just have a few bottles on the shelf, which is where we all started, and I'm pretty sure we all said we're just going to have a few bottles on the shelf, and then the shelf gets bigger and bigger, and it becomes a room or multiples.
Or multiple rooms. Yep. Yeah.
Well, even like you have 40 or 50 bottles open. It's like I don't even want to have to comb through everything. Just give me something. What do I have while I'm recording the podcast tonight? Randomize it and spit something out is nice.
Yeah, and I think that's part of where we felt kind of the similar as even the early stage, like right around that point where it's all it's the paralysis of you're like, I don't know what I want today. I don't know in the mood for. Ironically enough, the spirit guide tonight is what picked the Buffalo Trace Gold Eagle pick for me, and it was I want something for a cool summer evening that's opened, and it's this one, the 375, was half open, and it said for a cool summer night, this is what you need a pour of. So it picked it for me tonight because I wasn't going to sit and stare at the shelves for another hour or two and decide what I wanted to do. So, Yeah, and that's the beauty. Like, yep, get in 40 or bottles or so is plenty to get your feet wet, start getting some tasting experience, and then to your point, Dan, years later to still have that is cool to see, and how your palate changes over time. There were 2 bottles this week from the Rye 3 tasting that I scored and tasted very differently than when I tasted them in September. It was the same presenter, a similar setup. It was Gold Eagle on a Wednesday or Tuesday night, and the ratings were like 30% different from what I tasted last time. And I was like, interesting. What was different then? What's evolved? It was the Tokai cask finish that was much lower last time, and I loved it much more this week. And so, just that of like, what's different now than in September when I last had that?
We had a early episode that was unanimous that we all loved a particular bottle. And I think like 6 months later, Dan texted us out of the blue and was like, "Go sniff this." and Roberto was like, "Oh my God, it's pure paint thinner. What the fuck happened?"
Oh no.
So we had to like do like a apology episode. We were like, sorry. Like, this is actually terrible.
I remember that, but I can't even remember the bottle that it was anymore.
You don't remember? No. It was the first Castle and Key bourbon.
Oh yeah. You guys, I wasn't like super high on it. I didn't think it was bad, and then I opened it back. It was it's batch 1 of Castle and Key bourbon.
Yeah,
and I went back to it. I'm like, oh my God, there is hype involved in this one.
Yeah. But it would have, had it been more than a few months, it would have been hard to remember. Like, and if we didn't record it, did I actually like this? So yeah, the note taking and like being able to go back and like compare and understand like how you felt about something earlier is a nice feature.
Yeah, that's part of you asked earlier about some of the stuff that we're working on, trying to make that as frictionless as possible. And so, like, for instance, Bob loves using voice to text, right? Because when you're in a room tasting with the group, we don't want to be heads down. So as we're going through, Bob's like, "What's everyone tasting?" And just voice recording into it, clicking one button, and it pulls it. Not too long hereafter, we'll have scan your notes, and as long as your notes are reasonably legible, you can just scan your tasting notes right the day after the night of, if you didn't want to actually be in an app. So that's something that's very much on our minds, of how do we make that very quick, effortless, and to not draw away from the actual experience and community while you're enjoying those pours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any other things you guys want to talk about for Pourfolio that we haven't talked about yet today?
Bob, anything else jump out to you? I think I've covered pretty much everything that was top of mind.
I think everything was covered.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if people want to download the app, where can they do that at? How do they get it? How do they get started? How do they create accounts? What's the kind of start for that? Like?
Yep. So we're in both of the major app stores. So search Pourfolio app, Pourfolio Whiskey, Pourfolio Spirits in either the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or can go to just pourfolio.net. That'll take you to a page where you can get started too. It's a couple page, like 2 to 3 screens of onboarding, right? Your name, email, and a couple basic questions. And then once you're in, if you wanted, we have a guided, like, let us help you set up your first bottle, set up your first tasting. So if you didn't want a free explore, you can do all that. And again, those, all free. There's no ads, nothing like that. We're not in your face with any of those things or any of the subscriptions. We're just happy to have people get in and start experiencing it.
One more thing.
I noticed that though, when I was scanning, I was afraid that after I scanned every bottle, it was like, you want to sign up for the next subscription level, and it didn't do that. And I was kind of happy because I'm used to that with apps anymore these days.
Yes, we've been very intentional to keep all that out. So when you hit a natural break, we'll say, hey, or if you haven't used the app in a while, we'll say, hey, here's some new things we introduced you might be interested in, but far from what you might have experienced.
Yes, I think I've had it downloaded for a couple weeks, and procrastinated on putting anything in until I think earlier today, as has been the pattern for my entire whiskey career so far. But yeah, I haven't gotten like bombarded with like push notifications and stuff, which is appreciated because there's nothing like that makes you not want to use something more than like getting like a notification every day or multiple times a day, like, hey, you didn't use our thing today,
Yeah, totally. One of the other things that we didn't talk about earlier, and it's something we're trying to solve better. We've learned, as Bob mentioned, we learned a lot more about kind of the backside of the industry in this way, but barcode scanning, and we have image scanning, but depending on the brand and expressions, barcodes are shared, like all 14 of the foxes from Rare Character last year share the same barcode. Most stags share the same barcode, bookers, things like that. And so we haven't found like the ideal way to handle that yet, because if you were to scan a stag barcode, it would pull up many different versions of stag and maybe not yours. And so we're getting better
Barrel
at the
picks is
balance.
going to be the same issue.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. So lots of those are things we're still working on figuring out like the best way, but we also know, aside from actual pictures of the bottle or specific names and batches that you might have to tell us, it hasn't really been solved by any other app either. So we're not alone in trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I do like
one thing that we
the bottle ad
do have
feature
is,
that you have the like store pick and single barrel like functions though, so that's super nice.
Yeah, and then Bob, I'll pass to you in just a second. That was one that we got some pretty good early feedback on, of being in most apps, they're either kind of joined or they're blurred, of you just add, I got Buffalo Trace and here's the version. But when you think about a tasting experience, we really didn't want like every single barrel, the notes need to be distinct. I don't want how Jake tasted standard Buffalo Trace to blur with how you tasted 4 different single barrels. What we'll be doing later on this summer is kind of putting a ring around all of those. So if you tend, right, even though you have distinct experiences with each Buffalo Trace single barrel, maybe there is some commonality for you with all Buffalo Trace, regardless of single barrel or not. So we're excited to see how some of the data shows up for that and what we can learn. But we've intentionally kept those very distinct because we don't want to blur the flavor notes with those.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
the one other thing I wanted to point out, which Keith, I forgot the number, but how many bottles we have in our global database. So when you do like scan for a bottle, how many we already have? That just like pop up.
Yep. So we're over 7,000 as of this week, and we're adding roughly 1,000 or so a week. Certainly a far cry from like the hundreds of thousands that the apps that do wine or auction houses that have all of it. But it should cover 80% of most people's collection, which we think is plenty reasonable to get started. And then we've got badges and gamification. So Jake, as you scan in bottles that aren't in our global database, we'll check them, we'll verify them, and then we'll give you points, and you'll get a badge every 5, 10, 25 new bottles. Since you're contributing to the community, you'll get some badges in the app to say thanks for helping us build up so other people can use those too.
Cool.
Yes.
Well, guys, thanks for joining us. If you're listening to the podcast, normally you have a decent whiskey collection. Totally worth at least trying doing a trial run on the free. Like you guys said, it's been out for 6 months, so lots of things come in. Lots of, I'm sure, just constantly just updating the library is the biggest, probably one of the biggest and most time consuming tasks you guys have, is just getting everything scanned in. So recommend that. Gold Eagle Jake obviously is not with us. If you've gotten this far and haven't realized it, let us know, and then we won't have him on anymore. If you do miss Jake, don't worry. I will still plug for Gold Eagle. Follow him on Instagram at Gold. Oh my goodness, I gotta check this out. Gold Eagle Wine is the Instagram. GoldEagleWine.com is the website. You can. I'm just poor. I do transitions. Yeah. I don't do.
This is the worst you've ever done.
I don't do plugs. Gold Eagle Wine is the Instagram. GoldEagleWine.com. If you're in Libertyville, it's 255 Peterson Road or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Stop in, ship into 30 states. If this is your first time listening, I'm sorry. Phenomenal liquor store in northeast, northwest, or northern suburbs of Chicago. I can't do it justice, but I'm just a transition guy. Support Gold Eagle. No coupon codes today. Listen to previous episodes, you'll get coupon codes. Jake, if people want to know more about us, where can they find some previous episodes and things?
Yeah, you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, and Google. Watch us on Spotify and YouTube. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Bourbon Matters. Email us at bourbonmatters@gmail.com. If you have anything you want to say that you don't want to put on YouTube or Spotify or the comments sections, yeah, check us out.
Well, you feel like you're plugged too, and you do this every week.
Yeah, it was
like
pretty
5
bad
years.
too.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, we're both off tonight. Sorry.
Yeah. So, Keith, Bob, thanks for joining us. Thanks for letting us know more about the app. Like I said, we've just got it as well. We've been playing around with it, but yeah, I think a lot of people might like Life Mode. So
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Consider it
Very,
done.
very pro. Very pro.
but thanks, guys. Cheers.
Yeah. Thank
Cheers.
you. Cheers, gentlemen.